At least because I sent it out, I have no idea what it does. Welcome everybody, Chag Sameach. Let's sing a song first. This is one you know. We're going to sing it again later when we light the candles, but you have the words for some of it here. And we're talking in a way about music, in a way about politics, and in a way about storytelling today. So Malice Shul, here we go, on the first page. Anybody need the words? Everybody's got them. Here we go. Sounds like holiday music to me, no? Right? With that one, we could have been in Macy's. Chag Sameach, everybody. So great that you could all come and that we could all be here. It's been feeling like one of those periods when everybody's either sick or something's going on. Yeah, I'm just kind of amazed we're all here, so how great is that? It's already great. And Argentina won. Yes. As you might see, but Matan told me it's not quite the right colors, but this, I even got a light blue kippah. Messi got to raise the cup. Yes, it's very, very exciting. So there's a question with any Jewish thing or religious thing that has to do with something that happened long ago. And it kind of comes to a head with Hanukkah, and that's the question of what's the story of this holiday and how should we tell it? Not what happened. I personally, kids ask me all the time, story? You know, Jacob wrestled the angel. Manu just asked me the other day, is this a true story? And my response to that was to create our annual theme for the school this year, which is called the Year of the Storytellers. In which we look at different stories and Jewish storytellers throughout the ages, basically as a way to say, we're telling stories, and a long time ago they told stories. You know, is it true? I don't know. Maybe, partially, totally, definitely. You know, all the answers are correct. But specifically with Hanukkah, it's got an interesting history. And we can understand some of this history in part through the songs. And so that's why Eden is here today. This is Eden, everybody. Eden is one of the teachers at the School for Creative Judaism, and at this point they collaborated on a bunch of musical new Shul kind of things. Eden is primarily a saxophone player. He did not bring the saxophone because some of the songs we're going to play are more flute-like, and he also plays the flute. You don't see him playing the flute right now because he's covering for Todd, who is sick at home. He had prepared all these songs that you have in this thing. Todd had them all ready to go. He's an amazing guitarist and singer, and he was going to play them, and then Eden was going to play the flute. And instead, you heard us practicing when he came in. We'll do our best. It'll be a bit shaky. I'll play some piano, and I'll sing some. Julian's here too. Eden will play some flute and some piano. And you guys will just have to bear with it. And this is as good as we could pull off for today, which I think will be just great. So, let's put us all on the same page. Rose, how would you describe the Hanukkah story? What happens in the Hanukkah story? Tell us in like 2 sentences.
It's a really good question.
Which part of the story do you know well? Any of it? Okay. All right. How about you, Julian? One piece of the story. Let's go, people.
They needed the oil.
They needed the oil. Good. Okay, good. I knew you knew that. That's what I thought you would say. Right. Piece number one that we all seem to know is this thing about oil, right? And that's why we eat latkes and eat fried foods and all that kind of stuff. It's because it's a holiday that surrounds itself with oil. Because there was this miracle of the oil. It was supposed to last for one day. They had one jar of oil. It was supposed to last for one day, and it lasted for 8, and that was miraculous. Everybody, I think, I think everybody knows that piece of the story, right? Sorry? Huh?
Right? The miracle happened.
Yes, Nes Gadol Hayasham, right? Nes Gadol Hayasham, right? But there's another thing that's considered miraculous. Does anybody know what is the other miracle of Hanukkah that has nothing to do with oil?
Jewish people survived?
Sorry, what?
Jewish people survived.
Jewish people survived through Judas Maccabeus, as Robbie's saying, or Judah Maccabee, right? There's this whole story about the Maccabees, right? And the Jews had no religious freedom all of a sudden. We were forbidden to be Jewish, to do Jewish things, and then they fought back against the biggest army in the world, and they won, right? That's miracle number 2, right? So we have kind of 2 miracles that are complete. I'll try and give you, and I hesitate to do this because our whole point here is to figure out how we should tell the story nowadays, and how each of us wants to tell the story. But nonetheless, I'll try and give you my version of the story, which will try to kind of take into account all of this stuff, and then we're going to go back to the oldest version of the story, then move through history with the help of these songs to understand how different generations told this story. Okay? So the full version of it goes something like this. The Jews were living in Palestine. The Greeks, or really they were Macedonians, took over. There was this cruel king, or a ruler by the name of Antiochus. He said nobody's allowed to be actually any religion other than Greek religion. He forced everybody to do that by penalty of death. A group of Jews, the Jews were split over this issue. Some thought they need to really step up and be more Jewish and fight back. Some thought, let's assimilate and just, lay low until this passes. The Maccabees were of the first group. They went into hiding and fought a guerrilla warfare against the Greeks or Macedonians. Antiochus, in the middle of this, got annoyed with it being too difficult, so he trashed the temple in Jerusalem, and this gave the Jews more energy to fight the Maccabees, and then they fought harder. They won. They went back to the temple, and then, according to the story, is when this whole thing with the oil happened. There was no oil to be found. They found one little tiny jar of oil, and it lasted for 8 days, which is the length of time that they needed to create another jar or more of holy oil, which is the one thing that is allowed to feed what they call the Ner Tamid. You guys can try saying that. Ner Tamid. Ner Tamid means eternal light. Eternal light, right? Like in the synagogues, you have those little lights that people, in memory of people that are always lit. The temple had one of those. Yeah. And that's what this whole thing is about, is can we keep the eternal light? Will the eternal light die out even though it doesn't have oil? Right? That's what the thing is. Okay? The first version that we get of this story comes from what's called the Book of Maccabees. There's the first book of Maccabees, the second book of Maccabees. These, I'm no historian, and I'm giving a little history lecture here, so don't judge me too harshly. The first book of Maccabees is the earliest version of the story that we have, probably something like the 1st century BC, maybe a little earlier. And in that entire 2-book series, there's not even one mention of the oil. There is no oil miracle. Yeah, in our earliest version of the story, it does not exist. What does exist is this story about a split among the Jewish people. That's what it's about. The story is about assimilation. Yeah? It starts before Antiochus. And it tells us that before Antiochus even got there, the Jews were fighting. One group said, we should be more like the Greeks because that's where all the money is and the coolness and the fun. And the other said, no, we can't wear togas, we can't do any of that stuff, neither culturally nor religiously. We need to hold our own and be ourselves. Identity, Jewish identity. So when Antiochus came in, it was already set for this, and it describes this. And the Maccabees don't come off looking so good to a modern day audience or readers in the book of Maccabees. They do things like going into Jewish towns and circumcising non-Jewish boys by force. Yeah? Things like that. Yeah? And then the first description of Hanukkah, of the beginning, how does the story begin? Antiochus sent some soldiers into Modi'in, this town in the center of Israel, where there were a lot of Jews, and they knew there was this one rabbi named Matityahu, and if he would bow down to a statue, everybody else would. And so it describes how he comes there, and they say, bow down to the statue, and he refuses. And he sees another Jew agreeing and bowing down. He pulls out a sword and runs, he's an old man, and kills the Jew. And then kills the Greeks. Kills everybody there. And then has this statement which as was very famous to us growing up in Israel for sure, which is Mila Adonai Iti. Whoever's with Adonai, come with me. And that's when they go out into the mountains and things like that. Yeah? And the stories they tell there are war stories. War stories. Yeah? It's not, they're very religious people. One of the stories, actually, on Shabbat, we're allowed to break Shabbat in order to save a life. Right? This is a well-known thing. Right? That comes from one of the earliest sources for this, the Book of Maccabees, because there was a group of Jews. The Maccabees were not just one group. In one cave, there was a group of Jews that refused to touch a weapon on Shabbat. They wouldn't touch it because you're not allowed to pick it up. You can't pick up any object, certainly not a weapon. And so when the Greeks came, they slaughtered them. And in response, the rest of the Maccabees made this law. Okay, now you know what? You're allowed to protect yourself on Shabbat, and you're also allowed, if somebody's going to die from disease or whatever, you're allowed to save them. Yeah? That's their focus. And they describe the war in all kinds of detail, but it's a book of battle. About 100 years later, maybe 150, I don't have any songs from the Book of Maccabees, I'm sorry, but nor do I have a song from part 2 of this history. Okay? Part 2 of this history is in the Talmud. And it comes about 100 years later, when the rabbis are trying to talk about what should this holiday be. We knew there was this amazing thing that happened. We survived, right? We survived, and it was miraculous. But what do we do? How should we celebrate this holiday? Right? And so they make a very clear decision that the holiday. My suspicion is because they saw in these Maccabees, extremist crazies that they didn't really want to associate with. And so they wiped them out. The Talmud has no mention of the Maccabees. Yeah? In the part talking about Hanukkah, they're focused 100% on light.
What?
Light. The menorah, the Chanukiah, 8 days. Oil. They bring this story with the oil, right? And there's a famous argument between Hillel and Shammai, these two great rabbis. Should we start with 1 candle on the first night and then 2 on the second and go up to 8, or the other way around? Should we start with 8 and then go down 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? To the last night have only 1 because we're now united. We're not broken into 8. Or, no, it's more fun and we should where our job is to spread the light, right? That's what he said. So we always have to add that. That's the kind of thing they're talking about. Where should we put the menorah so that everybody knows about this miracle? And what time of day should we light it? Okay, and this is the kind of thing they're discussing in the Talmud. They say you got to put it by the door or by the window, and it's got to be, and the ultimate time to do it is exactly when people are coming back from work, right before Sunday. That's when we're supposed to light the Hanukkah. Yeah, actually, I think the time will work not bad today. Right before Sunday. That's Sunday. So far we have two versions of this story, right? One has to do with war and identity, and the other has to do with light in the darkness and spreading light and I don't know, the miracle, miraculousness. Yes.
Why do we get presents then?
Great question. Presents is a much later thing. There were presents. There were like gelt and things like that I think people would give, throughout a lot of the history, people would give, little bits like that. But I think in America, it's primarily a response to Christmas that we don't want to be one out. So we ate up. I think that's my. Anybody else have a better answer?
In Israel, we didn't do presents.
You never did presents?
No.
It's in America.
Well, I did because my parents are here.
But it's in Europe as well. I mean, I used to get Hanukkah gifts or presents. Hanukkah, I was born here, but we never had presents either. It was just Hanukkah yellow.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah, we've really expanded. we've worked on it. We're doing great on this. Yeah.
Well, if the first part of the story you told seems like it would be against assimilation,
That's right.
which is like Leopoldstadt, which we saw last week. But we're all assimilated in this religion.
So, right, and there's a question that the anti-assimilationists, the Maccabees, they don't think you can really be properly Jewish like us. Yeah, and there are a lot of people who think that today, right? So that
New government of Israel.
Huh?
The new government of Israel.
Right, exactly. So it's the same argument going on today, right? And we don't think we can be properly Jewish like that. Or I don't, at least, you know. Or I don't know what properly Jewish even means, to be honest. But I do know that to me, when the Torah speaks to me, it doesn't speak to me about, you know, caging myself into my own identity and focusing entirely on that and not being involved in the world and with other people and everybody else. So that's my yes.
Well, I was just reading this book, I think you might have read about the Jewish pirates of the Caribbean. And they were talking about the people who believed that learned about Judaism, who were Spanish, who saw the 5 books of Moses. And then they had to deal with all the Jews who believed it was all about the Torah, which they believed it didn't really have any importance for the commentary, and they felt it was as rigid as the Inquisition. So those Jews totally rejected all the landed Jews. And so they had a big number going that they would not be part of it, and they were blackballed by the community.
Right. So that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know what it means to be properly Jewish, and I retract that phrase. You know, everybody's Jewish. You know, everybody who thinks they're Jewish and whatever. But people have very strong opinions on what it is. Okay, I'm going to fast forward us about 1,000 years or so forward. Okay, and that's where we hit our first song. And that's the song that we just sang. It's called Maoz Tzu. Right? So Maoz Tzu, which nowadays, you know, will sing it every, both Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sephardi, everybody sings this nowadays, right after the lighting of the candles. Yeah? And it tells us a little something about what approximately from 1,000 years ago, people started singing this holiday as. However, the other thing that's telling about this song, and we'll read some of it, maybe sing one more verse, is that it only became a Hanukkah song a bit later. The song wasn't, we think of it as a Hanukkah song. There are people who sing it at Passover, even today. You know, this is what it does is it looks at each verse refers to a different, big bad oppressor that ruined our lives for a certain time, and we survive. So there's a chapter, there's a verse on Pharaoh and Egypt. There's one about the Greeks. There's one about the Romans. It goes through the Babylonians, right? And the sense of the song is, they tried to kill us and we survived, right? Let's. Can someone read the translation of these two verses at the bottom? You guys see them? Who's gonna read? Who's gonna read? Because we sing the song, but we don't always think about what it means. Let's. Yeah, you want to read? Go for it.
Tell me, my Father.
No, sorry. We're at the bottom here. O mighty stronghold of my salvation. First page.
First page, sorry.
From my soul.
O mighty stronghold of my salvation.
Okay. O mighty stronghold of my salvation, to praise you is a delight. Restore my house
when you will have prepared the slaughter for the blaspheming foe, then I shall complete with a song of hymn the dedication of the altar. My soul had been sated with troubles, my strength has been consumed with grief. They had embittered my life with hardship, with the calf-like kingdom's bondage. But with his great power, he brought forth the treasured ones. Pharaoh's army and all his offspring went down like a stone to the deep.
Okay, thank you. So, what's this about? Mighty strong one of my salvation, restore my house of prayer.
Our faith is a castle. It's a key.
Our faith is a castle.
It's stone.
Yeah.
It's also armored against bad.
Our faith is armor against bad. Right. What about this one? When you will have prepared the slaughter for the blaspheming foe, then I shall complete with a song of hymn the dedication of the altar. What's that in English? What does it mean in English about that line?
Kill my enemies and
Thank
I'll
you.
celebrate.
There you go. Kill my enemies and I'll celebrate. That's the basic line. Yeah. When there's like revenge taken against my enemies, then I'll celebrate. Yeah. Again, these aren't like things we naturally tend towards nowadays, right? All the language of enemies and revenge and things like that are difficult. However, we really do have a history. We really do. We're experiencing it today too, but nothing like they had it in each of these time periods, right? And so a moment of victory like this becomes, a healing moment, a moment of hope, of faith, and of dedication, rededicating ourselves. Hanukkah really means dedication. It's the dedication of the holiday, the dedication of the temple. We rededicated right after the Maccabee. So we're rededicated. Yeah? Okay, so now that let me just see how long we have because the kids, you know what? We're not going to sing Shul again because in about 10-15 minutes the kids are going to come and perform a play for us about all these stories. So we're going to skip Shul and we're going to skip again another almost 1,000 years. Okay? So chapter 1 was Maccabees and that whole thing with fighting among the Jews and our identity. Chapter 2 was no, forget all of that, let's do light. Chapter 3 was our lives are really hard, and this is a moment of light in the darkness. And we're going to connect in a way to both of those pieces of the story. Okay? And then we get, we're going to skip way ahead, because Shul really took us, for hundreds of years. But if we're going to go all the way to 1936. Okay? And I want to paint the picture for you of 1936 in what was Palestine at the time, and that's where we're going to encounter these Hanukkah songs that Edin and I and Maya in there and anybody who grew up in Israel kind of grew up with as these are classic songs, classic songs that you go to. Yeah. From the very beginning of the Zionist movement, Hanukkah was always going to be an important holiday. I saw this quote. I'm trying to find this quote. Oh yeah. It's a thing. Biadik, you guys know Chaim Nachman Biadik? You know who that was? You do. Chaim Nachman Biadik is the poet of the state of Israel, the early state of Israel before Israel. Grew up in Ukraine and then moved to Israel. He's like the voice of this country, of the pre-country movement in particular. He says, he said in 1927, there's no doubt that this holiday of Hanukkah, it is time for us to attach to it all kinds of incredible events that happen to our people. Yeah, and so the Zionist movement right at the beginning was like it caught on to the narrative here. And the narrative was which narrative would you imagine that they're going to connect with?
Oil. No.
Victory.
Huh?
Victory.
History.
Victory.
Victory. Yes, that's right. That's right. But what's interesting about it, and we're going to hear in a minute this song, that really kind of captures a lot of it. Yeah, which was written in 1936. When there were more and more Jews coming to Israel, there was more and more danger about to happen in Europe and already happening. Yeah, and there was a sense in that moment of taking our fate into our own hands. And that is in large part the message that we grew up with in Israel. Hanukkah is about taking fate into your own hands. It's got this God character who's maybe playing some part, but we are not so interested in that character. Yeah? And this song that we're going to try and sing to you, we'll see how it goes, and you'll have to be forgiving. But this song, it's called "I'm Gonna Sing It Up Redeem," and here we have it here. And this song was written in 36, and once Israel was established, it became the classic song that is sung at Israeli Independence Day. In the marches, we're marching on Independence Day, and we're hearing this. Yeah, and on Hanukkah too, because the song's about Hanukkah. It's the third song, the one called "We Are Carrying Torches." You see it, it's at the bottom, it starts at the bottom of the second page. I don't know if it's enough to now. I'll just point out, before we read the English and hear it in Hebrew, that it's become controversial in Israel nowadays. It always was there in the Independence Day things, all those things, until a few years ago, when they look at, if you skip ahead to the second half of the song, you see it says, "No miracle befell us." Yeah, let's try reading. Whoever has it, let's read just that part together. I think here we go. No miracle befell us, no cruse of oil found by us. We walked the veil, climbed mountain high, and there springs unearthed of hidden lights of yore. No miracle befell us, no cruse of oil found by us. We quarried rock until we bled, and then there was light. Yeah. So it's not, nobody did any miracle for us. There was no oil. Yeah? We're the ones who bled. And this place we're going to make through our blood, sweat, and tears, right? And then even it says, and there was light. That last line is a reference to let there be light. The Hebrew is let there be light from Genesis. And it's not God saying it, it's us saying it. Right? We're the ones who are going to do any light that comes. It's us. Yeah, that's the early Zionist, the secular Zionist movement, right? Because the way they saw it, and actually the religious Zionists too, but not the ultra Orthodox. The ultra Orthodox have this idea of waiting. We have to wait for the Messiah to come. We can't bring the Messiah. We got to wait. But both the religious Zionists and the secular Zionists, they're not into it. They think it's about us doing the things. Yeah? We gotta act. We gotta act. And it's a compelling message. Yeah? I'm going to let you guys follow the English as I try and sing this in the Hebrew. It starts at the bottom there. I'm going to sing like you but I want to. Okay, here we go. First of all, they still sing it, and they change some of the words. But the main problem they had was no miracle happened to us. There is no.
That's contrary.
Because it seems to contradict the religious nature of this holiday. Right? This is a religious holiday, right? Where it's not from the Torah, but it's from our history in which human beings encounter the divine.
This is like reclaiming the first book of the Maccabees.
It's kind of like reclaiming in a way, but the Maccabees were really into God, so it's a little different. It's a little different. Yeah. Yes, Barbara.
My friend here has a great observation. No, I said it sounds like Bertolt Brecht, like Weil, Mutter Courage, marching. But there's different kinds of marches. Not all marches are, there's different kinds of marches, and some carry hope and, are to encourage.
Right.
Yeah, to me this has a folky sound.
Folks.
Yeah, it's like an anthem.
It sounds like an anthem. Well, they do it in these marches as they're marching up to Jerusalem. It's
What day? They are marching.
they meaning there's like these state organized marches on Hanukkah up to Jerusalem.
Like public servants.
People like mass march.
Yeah.
These mass marches.
Everybody goes.
I mean, I never went, to be honest. Did you ever go? But I knew they would happen. They would go from spot to spot. One more song for you, and then we're going to watch the kids play. Okay?
Yeah.
This song the one that you're going to play on the flute. Okay, this one, you saw me try very hard on my voice, now you're going to have to see me try very hard on the piano. So if you look on this page called, the song called Avi, Avi, Father, My Father. This is a slightly different attitude. This is also an Israeli one. And this one is sung normally at Memorial Day services as well. But there's a little bit of a return, and they're scaling back a little bit of this hard secular narrative. That's my feeling. Let's read the words. Somebody want to read us the words in English? Yep.
Which one are we reading?
Sorry, we're reading Father by Father. It's on, I think, the third page.
Father, my Father, please tell me, why is the night black and dark, with winds that carry torn bits of fog? Dark, my child, the night is dark, and the wind passes by telling me secrets about a father who rebelled with his 5 sons. Tell me, Father, from where did it rise? Whence did the burning torch rise? And why does it run on its way so quickly? It rose, my son, the torch rose up from the fields of Modi into the path of the graves, to plant seeds of flames and lights. And where is this path? Where is it? Where is this path of ancient generations, on which passes the light planting torch? On the mountain, through the valley runs the path, from the heights of the Galilee to Elah and the sea, through the fields of heroes who fell on their swords. Tell me, my Father, just one more thing. Why this night, out of all nights, do the lights rise up and shine so bright? From generation to generation, my child, that's the sign. The light shines and rises and twinkles on this night, the night of the 24th of Kislev.
So that's the night, the 24th of Kislev. And you can see that the language is generation to generation. We're not trying to skip everything from the Maccabees until now, but we're actually more in touch with the progress, and we're more in touch with the light, and we're still in battle. This song was written in 1960, so we're still involved in survival and in battle, but there's a different tone. Okay, let's try and, we're going to get this one on flute, and you guys can try and follow along with English. few options on what we might do with this story, right? And we can think about the songs we sing. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather around the table, we'll give you a treat. If you want to play with and latkes to eat, and while we are singing, the candles are burning bright. One for each night that we share, as we'd like to remind us of days long ago. One for each night that we share, as we'd like to remind us of days long ago. Right? That's the message we're giving our kids these days. I think, right? Isn't that? Are there other Hanukkah songs that are like more primary in your head? I have a little cradle, I made it out of clay. When I'm ready, oh cradle, I shall play. Oh, cradle, 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 I made it out of clay. Oh, cradle, I shall play. You want to come dance up here? You can come dance. All right. You got a dancer back there. Any other songs? So, hanukkah, uchayto, hanukkah, uchayto, sepiko, so, vaso, kopasho, miskadon, hayam, ula, miskadon, hayam. Right. That one basically, Sevivon going around, Hanukkah's a good home. That's mostly what we're saying. Not super deep. Yeah.
Is the blessing of the lighting the candles on Hanukkah the only one with the tune?
The tune, and people use it for Shabbat. Yeah, we'll do that one soon. People use it for Shabbat, but it's primarily to Hanukkah. It's a Hanukkah melody. And it's slightly different in this one. Yeah.
Adam Sandler made a Hanukkah song.
The Adam Sandler Hanukkah song, right? And the Maccabees also. You guys remember the Maccabees? Maybe 10, 15 years ago they were a sensation. Yeah.
A Rock of Ages.
Huh? I want a puppy for Hanukkah. That's where we're at these days. Barbara's saying Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages is Mouse too. Rock of Ages is Mouse too, but they probably softened it so that we don't have to talk about murdering. I guess. What I'd like to leave you with before we watch this play is the question: how should we be telling this story? What is the story that we want to tell? Because all of these things, they're up to us to shape. And it's most important with the kids. And we have Maya Kao here, who has prepared with the children a play that I wrote long ago, or 7 years ago exactly, for this purpose. So come people. Those of you in the back, sometimes it's hard to hear kids and they're reading off of scripts. I invite you to kind of come over here, bring a chair. It'll be easier to hear.
And Misha, is it okay if I move these chairs?
Yeah, I think you can move it.
Okay.
And the rest of us should try and be quiet, or you can even stand. The play's maybe 5 minutes long, maybe 6. So, easy to...
I'm sick of this game.
Okay, so who's who?
I'll be the menorah. Hi! What's menorah? Nobody's playing with the menorah. It's a story of how luck does. No, it's a story about war.
War! Oh my God.
No way, it's about freedom.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's about miracles.
Woo, miracles.
You guys are all wrong. It's about light.
Oh yeah? You're so sure? Then let's see what your play looks like.
All right, here it goes. It was the middle of winter. Snow everywhere. The snow.
Show everything.
In Israel?
The Jews were all huddled in a small room, shivering. It was the middle of the night. No one could see anything. Then suddenly, one of them cried out, "I found it! A jar of old oil. Now we will be able to see." I found it, a jar of oil.
Thank you.
But they were still sad. Wait,
Hey, why?
what will we do tomorrow? They thought, that little jar of oil will only last one day. But the light just kept going on and on and on until 8 days later, the sun came out and everyone was happy.
Oh,
Show the sun. To everybody,
Yay.
Yeah, what? That's how I remember that. No, the oil only lasts till 8 days. But it's not just like in a room, it's in the temple. That was pretty good. Okay, people, listen up. Here's how I think. Once upon a time, the Jews lived happily in Palestine. Let's go, everyone. We're happy in Palestine. If they cradle, they ate lobster 3 times a day. They got presents every night so they lit the candles in the temple. Then they danced the chicken dance. Jews knew that God is taking care of them because they were so grateful for everything they had in life. And every day they would show their gratitude by letting the menorah and singing songs. But one day they came to the temple and it was dark. Nobody could find any candles anywhere. They looked all over the place. They prayed and sang songs. And finally, one of them, a girl named Judy, found 9 candles. It was enough to light the menorah with, but only for one night. So they lit the candles and prayed and sang and danced the chicken dance with so much intention that God heard their prayer and made a miracle. The candles lasted not for one day, but for 8. And by then they had managed to make new candles to keep the tradition alive. That was amazing. Guys, I hate to break it to you. That's not the true story of Hanukkah. Yes, it is.
Sarah's right. It's not. Hanukkah isn't just about light or about miracles. It's about the Maccabees who fought for the freedom to be Jewish.
Well, let's see your question.
It starts to say, everybody to be happy Jews in Palestine, but don't do Hanukkah stuff because Hanukkah wasn't invented yet.
You mean people were Jewish but didn't celebrate Hanukkah? What's the point of that?
But then a cruel Greek king became the ruler of Palestine. Sarah, that's you. He yelled at the Jews. From now on, no one is allowed to pray to any god except my God, the Greek gods. Anyone caught praying to the Jewish God will be put to death. The Maccabees decided they had to fight back, so they got all the Jews in a line and started marching around demanding freedom of religion. What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
They marched for so long that at last the cruel king Antiochus gave up and let them pray to whoever they wanted. Then they marched up to the temple in Jerusalem and celebrated their freedom. God saw that they were so amazing that they deserved something amazing for the amazing thing they had done. Since he made the oil lamp, they let it last for 8 full days, even though there was only enough oil for one. And in gratitude for that miracle, they decided to go around the world teaching other oppressed people how to win their rights back. What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now! That was incredible. It may have been incredible, but it definitely wasn't incredible. It means it's not what happened. That's how my activist Audrey tells it. Let me bring you all back to earth. The true story of Hanukkah goes like this. The Jews were happy in Palestine. And then Antiochus, as the evil king, showed up. Manu, that's you. And he said, no more being Jewish. So the Maccabees got mad and stood up to him. What do we want? Freedom! No, it's not like that. They had to fight. They gathered their weapons and started hiding in the hills. Whenever the Greek army came, they attacked with their strongest weapons. The war went on and on. Most of the Maccabees lost their lives. But the Greeks couldn't defeat them. And Antiochus got mad and took his troops to the Holy Jewish temple in Jerusalem and crashed the place and broke everything he found. When the Maccabees heard about this, they were furious and they vowed to never give up the fight. So they fought and fought and fought until the evil Greeks couldn't take it any longer and ran away from Palestine. Then the Maccabees went to the temple on the mountain of Jerusalem. They found the only jar of oil that lasted was the eternal light, symbolizing that no matter what happened, we will continue to be Jewish. And the lamp stayed on lit till they managed to make some new oil. The end. That's depressing.
Why does the story have to be so violent?
Well, I didn't make it that way. Yes, you did. And the Greeks are way too evil in your story, too.
I thought it was cool how they get the strongest diamond in the world.
There wasn't even a miracle in it.
Don't you get it? They beat the strongest one in the world. That's a huge miracle.
And it's a miracle made by people, not God, which is way cooler anyway. Guys, the real story is totally different. It's magic that I'm told.
Let's see yours.
Once upon a time, the Jews lived in Laodicea and only ate delicious food like latkes and jelly donuts and chocolate. Let's go, everyone, eat! But then one day there was a cruel mayor of Jerusalem who outlawed fattening food. And he threw away all the oil they used to cook with. The Jews were super bummed. So they climbed the mountain and then went to the temple where there was always oil, all because they had this oil lamp and that was always lit, and no matter what. They brought their frying pans with them and everything. But when they got there, they found that there's only enough oil for one pan of pasta, but they need to buy more than that, so they prayed. But 8, and the Jews ate and ate and ate.
Yes, go Jews.
That is not the story,
But it's fun.
and funny. It's basically a story of how we celebrate it.
But you made it up.
Well, you kind of made up yours too, or someone
do all of them in one day. Yeah!
So how do we start?
With a bell.
Actors, come, one more bow, one more. Well done, thank you. Thank you. Let's light candles and eat latkes. How about that? Okay, the table's coming here, so we're going to light it over here. All right.
Say hi to everybody who's watching on Instagram.
Oh, here comes another grandchild. Where all the grandchildren are.
All people who have been bar or bat or mitzvah in the last 2 years, please step up to light the candles. Come. Oh, yes.
This is the play. I don't have the other.
Yeah, yours are
You were great. You were all great, really. Loved it. You must have practiced for months.
Here we go, ready? You wait till the second lesson. Here we go, ready? Are for the miracles and the glorious deeds and the amazing things that you did for our ancestors during this time of year a long, long time ago. And all the 8 days of Hanukkah, we are not permitted to use them for light or anything else, but only to look at them and see how beautiful and glorious and sweet they are, so that we could give praise and gratitude and love for all the beautiful things in our lives. Ma'ozu. Ma'ozu Yeshuati Lechana Eshabeya Tikun Beit
Thank you.